Welcome to the state of Ohio. I'm Karen Kassler. Governor Mike DeWine is still working out the final details of his 17-point package on gun law changes and mental health policy reforms. And this week, 7 gun bills sponsored by Democrats were heard in the Senate. 3 with Republican Senator Peggy Lehner of Kettering near Dayton signed on as a co-sponsor. But it's unclear whether those bills will get more than one hearing. As state officials debate gun regulations inside the Statehouse, different citizens groups are hitting the pavement to rally for support for their cause outside of the Statehouse. Correspondent Andy Chow reports.
Are you interested in signing a petition requiring background checks on all gun sales?
Andrea Yagoda is standing near the library in the Oval at Ohio State University, trying to fill her petitions one name at a time.
Are you a Franklin County voter? Are you interested in signing a petition? If we get 133,000 signatures, it goes to the legislature.
Yagoda is collecting signatures to potentially put an issue on next year's ballot that would expand background checks on all gun purchases and transfers. This would close certain loopholes around background checks when buying guns through personal transfers, such as at gun shows and online.
We have so many laws. Children can't buy alcohol, and we don't give them a loophole. People whose license are suspended for drunk driving or whatever, we don't give them a loophole. So I don't understand why, for guns, we give people a loophole.
In her pitch, Yagoda talks about how dangerous people who aren't allowed to buy a gun can still get around the system. She says she herself is a gun owner and that this is not a fringe issue.
I have 3 weapons. I go to the range and I shoot and I fire, and I'm gotta say I'm pretty good. I'm not a gun control freak.
While Yagoda works on her own to gather support at OSU, there are many others rallying for this cause.
Hey, hey, we're not going away! We're not going away!
A group of advocates marched in downtown Columbus, calling on lawmakers to pass what they see as common sense gun regulation, such as the expansion of background checks and the so-called red flag law, which expands the ability for courts to confiscate weapons. This event was a first for Catherine Queener. She's never advocated for gun regulations before, but the Dayton mass shooting in early August that left 9 people dead changed things for Queener, a Dayton native.
A bunch of my fellow Daytonians were gunned down. They were out for an evening of fun and they just got killed.
Queener and several others at the march were also gathering signatures for the ballot initiative. That initiative group, Ohioans for Gun Safety, says it has hundreds of volunteers like Queener and Yagoda and more than 50 counties around the state, collecting signatures at other events, such as farmers markets.
If you know you can't attend a hearing, write your legislature.
But that initiative and other gun regulation bills are being met with strong objection from certain gun rights advocates. 2 weekends in a row, there were pro-gun protests at the Statehouse. First, a small one of about 50 people focused on red flag laws, and this one of a few hundred last weekend. It was organized by the group Ohio Gun Owners, which has vowed to oppose all gun control legislation. Scott Rash traveled from Cincinnati to voice his opposition to more gun regulations.
Because criminals don't do background checks. People who want to do harm don't go the legal route. That's what everybody seems to be missing.
The gun rights advocates argue that red flag laws would go against constitutional rights, such as due process and search and seizure. The Buckeye Firearms Association has been working with the DeWine administration on its gun law and mental health policy reform proposals, and has suggested there's room to negotiate on some of them. But it says as far as background checks go, it joins with more of the extreme groups in saying a small amount of gun crimes is committed by people who purchase guns through the loophole.
And this is county, not country.
But that amount of crime is still too much for advocates like Andrea Yagoda, who points out that a mass shooting in West Texas earlier this month that left 7 people dead and 25 injured was carried out by a gunman who purchased an assault-style rifle through the loophole. Polls have consistently found that expanded background checks receive a large amount of support. A recent Quinnipiac poll, conducted before the Dayton mass shooting, had more than 90% of respondents saying they were for universal background checks. Yagoda says that kind of support is reflected in the enthusiasm for people to sign her petition.
Last weekend I was getting I went to a farmer's market, and literally I got a signature every 2 minutes. So, I mean, that takes 2 minutes to fill it out and explain to people. So, you know, people are lining up. People understand. Everybody wants a background check.
The ballot group has until December 27th to collect 133,000 valid signatures in order to put the initiated statute before the Ohio House and Senate. If the legislature doesn't act after 4 months, then the group can collect another round of signatures to put it before voters in November of next year. Andy Chow, Statehouse News Bureau.